Hello, pals, malt mates, and whisky aficionados. I'm Ralphie, and welcome to review number 1131 extras here in the Bothy for extra perspective, opinion, content, information, and importantly, experience. And I'm going to focus on experience, talking about experience of brands in this particular review, because it really is an important part of my job as someone who's not an expert. I'm an enthusiast. I've been an enthusiast for a long time, and the novelty still hasn't worn off. And over this time, simply because I've been spending a much larger than normal amount on whisky, enjoying every drop that I encounter to a lesser or greater degree. Well, I have to be honest, some are much harder to love than others, and some have been rank rotten and extremely disappointing, particularly in relation to price. And we're all going to have that mistake. It's inevitable. We all make it. We trust the narrative. We trust the reviews. We see the advert. We hear an expert saying how magnificent and authentic and blah-de-blah-de-blah a particular brand is, and we don't seem to realise that they've got to be on song because they need to get a paycheck from somewhere. And whether it's one brand or another, they've got to be basically kind to the category, kind to the hand that feeds them the cash, so as that basically they can support themselves and the families. So it's understandable. I'm in a fairly unique position here. I buy what I review because of Google advertising and my Patreon channel subscribers who get live streams, extra content, and Bothy Discord access. The Discord channel, by the way, it's a communal chat group of like-minded whisky enthusiasts and full of content. This glass is full of content. Just reviewed it. This is the one I reviewed, Kilkerran, and I'm going to use this as a very good illustrative example of brand awareness. I could pick any brand out there, Talisker, Tobermory or Lechake, Glenfarclas, plenty to choose from there. But I'm going to use Kilkerran because it's a brand that I'm quite fond of for a number of reasons. And the reasons to do with practical analytics. The experience varies, inevitably. And it's only when we have experience that we gain experience and then can call on that experience to gain more. I know that sounded a bit cryptic. Let's move on here. Glengyle Distillery is literally beside Springbank in Campbelltown. And what I like about Kilkerran, from the moment it first appeared, is that I knew damn well you didn't just have a passionate group of enthusiasts whose life mission and purpose was to make exceptional whisky and share the message and the wonderful thing with everybody around the world, because we're one big family and everything's happy and golden and glowing. I'm far too cynical for that narrative, and so should you. Springbank own Glengyle Distillery, which makes Kilkerran, and therefore the amount of experience and practical ability to make whisky is second to none. And the reason I say that is because when they bought the stills for Kilkerran Distillery, they immediately noticed that the stills were out of proportion, and therefore they cut roughly, I'm paraphrasing, about a third off the neck of the stills and made the stills shorter. Now, that's their narrative. There could be other reasons for it, but it wouldn't surprise me because the stills had previously been used for making a very obscure, allegedly collectible single malt called Ben Wyvis, which was famous for being absolutely dreadful. And it was, because I've tasted it, and it was shockingly bad. even given the benefit of age. Hence the reason it's disappeared. So please don't confuse Benwivis with Glenwivis. Glenwivis is a very well-made whisky from a very interesting little distillery, which is doing a damn good job and should be on your radar. But let's get back to Kilkerran. I looked at the inaugural bottlings of Kilkerran. I thought, no, I'll leave it a bit. I'll let it settle down. I don't want to follow in and tap into the fever that you find with online reviewers every time there's a release of a certain bottling. We've seen that recently with Ardmore 10-year-old cask strength. As soon as it was publicised, people were reviewing it, and yet it wasn't actually available throughout all the regions in Europe and the world. So I suspect those who did review it got what's called early access, which is what you can get when you're an approved reviewer. This is one reason why I don't tend to review anything quickly once it comes out. I give it a bit of time and then review it when other people aren't. I think it makes it more meaningful. And I was really impressed with Kilkerran. As a young whisky, complex, dry, astringent, it demanded that you pay attention, and this is a superb illustrative example of that quality. It's such an old school, old style dram. Not a session dram, not a dram for lazy palates. It's just a slow sipper in good company, especially when the good company is your own company and you're on your own, enjoying yourself, which isn't difficult to do. Never has been. Too many people don't have the courage to do it though. It was soon followed by heavily peated versions. And I was quite intrigued with that, so I bought a bottle and I was not disappointed. Heavily peated Kilkerran is excellent. It's a rounded, it doesn't have the signature anywhere near the likes of Caol Ila or Lagavulin or Laphroaig, but it's honest. It's being delivered the way other heavily peated whiskies should be delivered, but aren't. Particularly official bottling and properly unchill filtered, in other words, barrier filtered. There's very few heavily peated whiskies have that presentation, and we've got to be conscious and aware of it. I did review the 16-year-old, which was one of my last Kilkerran reviews, because it's now coming on about 18 years old as a distillery, but I was less impressed as an older whisky than as a younger whisky. And the reason for that is that when we start to do our forensics, brand forensics, there's a number of questions we've got to ask. Who owns the distillery? So what's the style? So Bowmore, for example, corporate owned, 40%, 43% in the USA, big, heavy marketing to distract you and disconnect you from the whisky. It's chill filtered and it's got loads of caramel colour added, and you'll find it in travel retail and most high-end, supposedly, bars where they want to charge a lot more than the drink is worth. That's that style. So we've got to anticipate that when we buy the whisky and say, right, okay, that's the style of bottling. I think I'll wait and I'll try it at a whisky festival. But then you go to the whisky festival and it's not there because it's a big corporate brand, and many big corporate brands don't care about being at whisky festivals because they do not respect genuine whisky drinkers. So that's why they're not there. And that's the way it goes. To be honest, the feedback I get, organisers of whisky festivals do not miss the corporations being there. I believe, and I'm just speculating here, pure speculation, that they're very, very, very slow at paying their bills. How corporate. But they're very, very fast at taking the money off you. Again, how corporate. Smaller distilleries, depending on the calibre of leadership, and the competency of experienced aptitude and motivation is where the magic is. This is where conversations with other people help us get to assess a particular brand and decide, how am I going to rate this? Is this a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star or 5-star brand? And this is a very, very good system, Maltmates, of actually narrowing down your buying risk. Kilkerran, in my opinion, is a 5-star brand. Why? Honest whisky, very well made, fairly priced for what it is, generally available, not globally, because it is a small distillery, but as available as a small distillery product can be. Soon as you taste it, you're getting authenticity and flavour. Of course, you may find that as time goes on and you have a wider variety of age statements within the core expressions from these distilleries, like Glengyle, that you will find you have your preferences. Does this distillery work better younger or older? In my opinion, Kilkerran works better younger. It does. I love that Irish style, which I can't get from Ireland or from Irish whiskies now, because Irish people are buying up all the good stuff. And all we're left with is, take it or leave it. Jameson's or Bushmills. Well, I think I'll leave it on both accounts there. Both these brands are well past their best. You've got to taste the old ones to know. I'll set you a challenge. See Bushmills. Go to auction and get an old black Bushmills, the sherry matured one, not an age statement, from the 1990s. And see how far that brand has fallen. It'll shock you. Sweet and sour pineapple notes and dusty grain. Oh, it's delicious. So refreshing, so tart, sour, bitter, big sensation richness. The sensations hold up well over time in a cask, but they will get rounded off and diminished by oak influence over time and oxidisation within the cask. So Kilkerran is a brand where it works for me better younger. As a peated whisky, it works slightly older. I like full phenolics. You don't get that with age, and importantly, whatever brand it is, whatever the circumstance, as soon as you hit 18 years old now, you're starting to pay an awful lot of money for the risk you are taking. And that risk is absolutely controlled by the quality of casks they have used. And I recently bought an 18-year-old whisky which genuinely shocked me. It was so bad I couldn't even review it and mention it in the channel. It was appallingly bad. I did my forensics on it. I know what I'm looking at. And as soon as the coating, the finish had lifted, which no mention of finishes, they don't have to, I was tasting and smelling flat dead sour casks which should never ever have been used in the first place. Heaven help us that a distillery even allows that to happen. That distillery, which will remain nameless, has got a 1-star rating. Let me now give you a distillery somewhere in the middle that's got a 3-star rating. And that distillery is Tullibardine. Because see, Tullibardine as a malt, as a signature, is really very good. But, despite a brief, lingering effort through official bottlings, in particular the Murray bottling, which I highly recommend you look out for at auction because it's unglamorous, nobody wants it, and it's uncollectible, particularly with scratched labels and damaged boxes. You'll get a good bidder's discount on it. But it's the independent bottlings that often let some of these distilleries really shine, and it's like Benrinnes, you're actually better avoiding the official bottlings. They're so few and far between with Benrinnes anyway. But that's another 3-star. Going on 4-star, because independent bottlings of Benrinnes can be absolutely phenomenal if you do your homework. Do not guess. Do not take too much of a punt. Okay, now and again. But when you've got your brand forensics, you've acquired your information, you've given distilleries their star ratings, we're not even talking mall marks here, just star ratings, it helps narrow things down. And that is where we get better buys, for better rewards, for bigger smiles on our face, because we are being methodical in our research, because we've got a system. And a star rating for individual distilleries, and it applies to individual independent bottlers as well, is a very good way of empowering your research. See you soon. Bye-bye.